Hey everybody, welcome to the Song Revolution podcast, brought to you by Nashville Christian Songwriters. Nashville Christian Songwriters exists to empower Christian songwriters worldwide. I'm John Chisum, and this podcast exists to bring you valuable songwriting insights, inspiration, interviews, and just all around good fun with some of the greatest songwriters, producers, arrangers, artists, and creatives, and beyond. You can find out a whole lot more about us at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. Hey everybody, John Chisum here for the Song Revolution podcast, where we bring you amazing people to talk about songs and music and Jesus and all kinds of fun things. And today is really kind of a different show. I have a cancer survivor, a new artist named Doane. And Linda was given 2 to 12 months to live just 1 year ago. And after a clinical trial at MD Anderson, she is now cancer-free. And a whole new ministry has been birthed out of her ordeal. And she has a brand new album out called Powerful that was produced by Ian Eskelin, who's a great producer in Nashville. And it's just a delight. I got to sit down with Linda for a while today and talk about her story, her healing journey, and the new music that is coming out of that story. So sit back and enjoy with me today, cancer survivor and child of God and great new artist, Doane. Linda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we just met, but I kind of feel like we're friends already. It's like you're easy.
Spirit,
you're easy to talk to. I love that.
Amen. Good.
So we'll get to the new record and the music and the ministry and your amazing testimony. But give us a little background, just kind of as we start. You're a new artist to us. Love your music. I've been reviewing it already, and we can talk about some of the songs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But tell us a little bit about kind of your background and, you know, kind of how did all this kind of get started? Have you been doing music and worship like forever, or what's been the history of that?
Music was always that thing, like nobody had to tell me to do, but it was always kind of privately. I would, listen to records in the basement, and I would write the lyrics out because, back in the day they actually weren't included. And I would memorize albums from, the entire album from start to finish. And, but it was just kind of something I kept very close to my heart. And it wasn't until my daughter was born and I was kind of writing this note to her saying, follow your dreams. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I did the very practical, and there's nothing wrong with it. I got an accounting degree. I worked at Chrysler for 15 years. But there was always this ache that something was missing. And I would be writing poetry and stuff at the time, not even realizing it was eventually going to be lyrics. But that desire to write was always in me. That desire to sing was always in me, but I just thought it was for myself. But I just couldn't shake it. And my husband and I had joined a worship team, and that's where I met my current husband. And even that, there was still an emptiness even in that I felt like I had something to say. And I just don't think I had the confidence to say it. But then after the second time that I had been diagnosed with stage 4 Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, the first time was in 2011, the second time in 2014, and mid-2015 I was done with treatment. Tom and we just looked at each other and we just said, what are we waiting for? This time is flying by. All these songs keep pouring out, and they're just in a book. And so that's when we decided to record our Who's EP. We did it all locally, and that just kind of led to us about a year later. I had actually Facebooked messaged Ian Eskelin, and what a blessing he's been. for only reasons God knows, he just took a chance. We met. We definitely connected both dealing with cancer in our family, and developed a friendship and a mutual respect. And we just started writing, and what went from one song to an EP went to an album. And the initial plan was to release it last year, at the end of last year. And then the cancer happened again. My daughter's anorexia came back again. My father-in-law died unexpectedly. And it's like life just kept getting in the way. But I also know that God's timing is perfect. And I was given a terminal diagnosis about a year ago today. I was given 2 to 12 months to live, and Tom got right on the computer looking at clinical trials and found one at MD Anderson in Houston. And I basically lived there for about 6 weeks going through all sorts of treatment. And here I am today by the grace of God. And
thank God.
And just that desire to write and record, even in Texas, we called and arranged with Ian to record the last 2 songs on the drive home. I wasn't allowed to fly because of the immune system issues. And so we drove from Houston straight to Tennessee, recorded Take Me and Roar, and then drove home. And then I had a good 60 days of hard recovery.
Wow, that's amazing. Then, you were singing with having just gone through all that.
I'm telling you, that was the grace of God, because I don't know how. And when Barry was recording the vocals, he said, "This is the strongest vocals you've ever done." And I just know it was the grace of God. And, I'm not giving up. I mean, until God calls me home, I'm all in, all in.
Well, that's good. And we should all be like that, right? So let's back up a little bit. So the music was very personal and private, singing with the hairbrush in the basement.
Oh yeah, I still do that.
I think everybody secretly does. We just don't admit it. Even us guys, It's like,
oh yeah, I'm busted.
So, but it was a very private thing for you. It was like not in your vision to become a recording artist necessarily, but
I think the dream was there, but I honestly believe it was just the lies of the enemy just trying to push down that gifting and that desire. I just didn't believe it could happen. Right. I don't know. There was no confidence in it at all.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of breezed through the story, and I know your story, from researching for this interview, but I don't want to go too quickly through it for the listener. Cause they're listening, they don't have the opportunity that I do, to do the previews and review your music and read the bios and kind of study up a little bit. But so this is a whole significant. I mean, my goodness, to be diagnosed with a terminal illness a year ago, given 2 to 12 months to live, and it's kind of like nanny boo boo on the devil and on cancer, because here you are, right? I mean. Praise God. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. And then you're stepping out to this, to write and sing and work with great people like Ian Estelin. And I mean, just great people. But the testimony of all this is huge. How God allowed, you to be in this trial and go into freaking remission. I mean, what does it feel like? And we'll talk more about music in a minute, but what does it feel like to know that you're like on the verge of going home to be with Jesus, and you have so much life left in you and so much, it's not like you're 87 years old, it's no, you've got so much life ahead. And how does that feel? And how do you deal with that?
It's frustrating. Because I keep feeling like my life kept getting interrupted. And I'm like, Lord, I know, I have something left to do. I can feel it. Why not now? Why not now? And so honestly, it was just frustrating. And, when there's definitely a mourning process that you go through when you hear news like that. You can't help, you have to battle the thoughts of, I don't want to leave my children behind. I don't want to leave my husband behind. I don't want to leave my life behind. But I always attached to that was, I don't want to leave these unsung songs behind either. It is just such a deep, deep, deep desire to write and to sing. I can't even explain it. It's so strong. I'm sure everyone listening probably knows exactly what that feeling is like, that you just have something to say and you don't feel like it's just for you, So I was frustrated, but even in the doctor's office, when he told me, and he kept trying to say, this is serious. You have 2 to 12 months to live. This is serious. Something needs to happen. You do need a miracle. And I just sat there and I thought, oh, here's my moment to really testify. And I'm going to proclaim the name of Jesus. And I was just, and I've been with him since 2011. And he's Jewish, and we'd always talk about Jesus. And, he's not a believer, but I kept talking to him about it. And, I thought this was my big moment, that this was my big test. And all I could do, I sat on the chair and I went, faith. That was it. That was the only thing that I could say. I didn't cry. I didn't get upset. I just said faith. And that was it. And then he's like, okay, then. All right, then we'll see you in a few weeks.
Wow. And what does he think now? I mean,
he says that in his words, he said, you've been a freak from the start. You've never just embraced the diagnosis. And I always called it my diagnosis, N-O, because I always say God put the no in diagnosis. Because I just didn't feel done yet. It's almost like I just felt like everybody's lying to me. But even though the treatment was very real, though, I know they weren't lying.
That's brilliant. I love that diagnosis. That's great. That's great. Yeah. God put the no in diagnosis. That's brilliant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do believe it's there for a reason, and it's always because there's always that room for God to move. Right. Right. And I just refuse to believe anything else, which is the whole reason why the album is called Powerful. I just believe there's a whole level of our Christian walk that I haven't attained yet, that I desperately want to attain.
Well, I mean, you've experienced something that, people do find healing, through the doctors, through faith, whether that's instantaneous or gradual healing. And I've had healings in my life, real physical miracles. And there's just, and I've watched as people, that we've prayed for die. It's like, like we can't totally explain it, but we're called upon to use our faith. And
absolutely, absolutely.
It's like, I love the saying, pray to catch the bus, then run like heck, and it's like, so we pray, right?
Right.
But we still go do the things we need to do,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So there you were. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know that. I'm sorry. I know that there's a lot of people that would say God didn't heal you. The clinical trial did.
But who cares?
Who cares? I don't care. I don't have an answer. But I definitely do know that without that literally undying belief that God still had something for me to do, honestly, it would be easier to stop. It's so hard. But my doctor had said something that really resonated with me during one of the checkups or whatever. I just said, I think it was right after he said, you're kind of a freak or whatever. And I was like, I just believe in God. Like, I just believe in what he can do. And he kind of looked at me and he said, but so do a lot of the people sitting out there hooked up to the chemo machines right now, and they're not getting better. And it really, it really made me think. I have a cousin. She was only 26 when she passed away from liver cancer, and I know everybody doesn't get the ending, the desired ending, and I don't have an answer for that. And I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things about this walk is I know what the word says. I know that he says to heal the sick and raise the dead. And there's this whole powerful experience, and I'm not doing it. And I feel like, God, if I'm not doing all I'm able to do, that you're able to do through me, show me, know me. Wow. But I'm going to keep declaring it.
I know. Well, we could spend hours just talking about doctrines around healing, and I've been in and out of a lot of different circles that believe a lot of different things about that. But
yeah,
it is a miracle. However, it happened through the trial or somebody's hands. Yep. God has his hand on you, Linda. And so now here you and Tom are doing inspiration worship. And I know that, based on this healing and, what was going on with you, that even the word inspiration is very special for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Inspiration worship. I knew that's what we wanted to be called in, I'd say like 2014. And it was like not too long after that I had looked it up, because I always know God's in the details. And I didn't realize that inspiration, I was thinking it was going to be, inspire people to do great things, which is great, which is what I was expecting. But it was a single inhale. And it just made me fall on the floor, because the only reason I found out I was sick was because I had trouble breathing, and I thought it was stress, because we had put my daughter into a long-term treatment center for the first time. And I finally went to the doctor, which is something I do not like to do. And I always put off as long as possible, which I shouldn't. But I had so much fluid in my lungs. And so it was over the course of 6 weeks that I had 7 lung taps. And for that whole 6-week period, I was never able to take a full breath. And so for God to just tie in the name inspiration worship with our actual testimony was such a meaningful moment for me. And it's funny, because we have been advised many times to change our name, inspiration worship, or to just be known as Linda Doane, or to pick something cooler. But I refuse. I absolutely refuse, because I do believe that God is in every single word of not just the lyrics, but even in our name.
Hey, we're going to take just a quick break from the show so that we can let you in on some amazing things happening around here at Nashville Christian Songwriters.
Are you a Christian songwriter wishing you could be heard by the right people in Nashville? Yeah. We get it. You've been writing for years, but you have no idea how to be heard, how to get your songs out there, or how to connect your talent with opportunities. You feel stuck and wonder if you'll ever get a real break. NCS Bootcamp is your chance to be heard by taking your songwriting to a level you've only dreamed of. It gives you hands-on, personalized coaching and mentoring to help you think and write like a professional Christian songwriter determined to impact the world with your songs. If you're ready to empower your songwriting dreams, go to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com/bootcamp to book your free songwriting breakthrough strategy call today. Become the songwriter you were born to be with NCS Bootcamp.
Well, I just hope that you'll take advantage of that and check it out. All right? We bring you good stuff here on the Song Revolution podcast. So back to our episode.
Be faithful to the vision God gives you, not what
Absolutely
is cool or not. So,
Absolutely.
That's good for you. So let's talk about the album and release, and maybe a little bit about what you're doing, and as far as traveling, singing, ministering, and how that's shaping up. So you've been working with Ian over a couple of years. Is that right?
Yep. Since December of 2016.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great producer. And did you co-write some of the songs with him? And
Yes. We co-wrote All I Am and The Blood together. And I'd never had anybody prior to that, like that I wrote lyrics with. And so that was just a learning experience. He is like lightning quick. Everything just comes and I'm like, just like running to catch up. And so it was a huge learning curve for me. And I love the songs that came out of it. And, they're two of the three actual more like worship type songs that we have, which is fitting for inspiration worship.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel blessed, and I hope I get to do more of that in the future with people.
Well, I hope so too. And the album is very current and fresh, and it's really very easy to listen to. Some music, I mean, we all have our favorites, right? But it's like immediately accessible, and you sound great. I mean, my goodness, for where you have been to this, it's like, wow, and that makes it very, very interesting for people, to know the background on a ministry like that. So what are you doing? Are you out doing church ministry? Are you setting up dates? Kind of how's that going for you?
The only thing we've set up so far is a listening party locally on September 15th. I mean, we have just been in crisis mode for so long that it just feels like that now the opportunity to do things, we would love to get out there and share our music live. In November, actually, we did go to India. Ian had set it up, and we got to do some of our songs live even before we finished the album. And it was exciting because I had gotten the diagnosis a couple months before that. And when I was in Texas, the only thing I said to the doctor was, can I still go to India? And
you got to fly to do that.
Oh, it was amazing. But it was the first time I got to feel like I stepped out there as inspiration worship, and I got to talk about our testimony and sing some of the new songs, and just I feel like God kind of set that up and put it in my heart to say, don't worry, I know it doesn't look good, but this is what I have. I have more of this for you. Just get through what you're getting through. So I'm very prayerful that opportunities will come our way.
So all this is just brand new.
Brand new.
You're basically beginning a ministry at this point in your life based on the work of God. And I think, Linda, I think that's really encouraging to a lot of people that I deal with in our Nashville Christian Songwriters mentoring program. I deal with a lot of people that they're not spring chickens, they're not the 22-year-old with the skinny jeans and the guitar and, and the cool hair and
really not that,
the torn jeans or whatever. And it's like, I'm sensing that God's doing such a different thing. I'm seeing a lot of old timers kind of come back around, and then a lot of people that are more in middle age and even older that are reconnecting with their calling to write and to sing and to minister. And it just feels like this upwelling, a groundswell, an upwelling of song and power and ministry. And you're such a great example. So I think it's very encouraging to people that are listening. I think it would be to a lot of my clients. And we're helping people do some records and that are, it's awesome. And so I think that you're such a great testimony. And you were saying it, I think, before we started recording a while ago, that, the testimony is what we have.
Yeah.
Revelation 12. So
overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And it's really the thing that makes us unique. And I think it's the thing that connects us to other people. And if, it's really the only reason in my mind that I can come up with that God would even allow us to walk through some of the stuff that we walk through. is so that we can connect with other people and use that platform to draw people closer to him, because life is really hard.
Thanks.
It's really hard.
Linda, my gosh.
But it inspires a lot of lyrics.
Well, I the other thing that occurs to me, just in talking with you, you're delightful, and man, God's just pouring out of your. We're talking to each other on video, so I can just see your face, and just you're beautiful, and just the joy of God is so alive in you, and that's awesome. But
Thank you.
the thing that I'm seeing is that people aren't sitting around. Maybe some people are, but dreaming of record companies and publishing companies, coming along and doing something for them. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's the old way. And here you and your husband, Tom, are like, no, this is our time. We're going to do this. We're going to invest in the record. We're going to invest in, whatever it takes to capture this work of God. And then if you get to sing in front of 100 people or 100,000, right? It's like your heart is just to give this testimony and give and give. What would you say to people that, I don't know, anybody else has been given 2 to 12 months to live, but, but what would you say to people that might be sitting, on their talent instead of doing something with it?
I would say, let it out. I would say never stop. Never stop chasing it down. I think, God says he gives us the desires of our heart. And I just know that I had such I'll call it a divine discontent, because I'm content in my life. I'm happy to be alive. I love the Lord. I love my husband. I love my children. But I had this divine discontent that there was something for me, along with being a wife and being a mom and being all the wonderful things that I'm blessed with being alive. So I would just say never stop. Just don't stop. And the best advice I ever heard, and I really wish I could remember who said it to me, but it was, do not attach yourself to the outcome. Even with Who's, that was a lesson actually I had to learn after recording Who's, because that song to me, I felt like it was God pouring right through me. And I felt like when he gave me that song, he said, if I am the answer to the questions in Who's, then this is your go time. Go. And so I thought Who's was literally going to set the world on fire. And instead, it did nothing. And my daughter was still sick, and I got sick again. It just felt like it was a long process of learning to separate myself from I am able to chase my dreams no matter what. And the outcome is up to God. And so learning that right now, I have so much peace with Powerful. Of course, I want the whole world to hear it. Of course I do. The Prince is the power of the air. So I want to fight him in the atmosphere with the word, and there is word in every single one of my songs. There always will be. But if that's not God's intention with it, so be it.
Yeah. Well, it's already having wonderful effects, and I'm sure there's so much more that God's going to do with it. What are you doing as far as your own promotion? And I know it's kind of, it's brand new, so you probably haven't done a whole lot, but
I've never even done this before.
Well, welcome. Welcome. Yeah. So is anybody helping you? I'm really asking for the sake of our listeners, right? People that are kind of in your same situation. You don't have you're an independent artist. You don't have a record company and publicist. And I don't know. what are you doing to help people hear it?
Ian is helping us through his Radiate music label.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah. And he's the one who introduced us to Rick Hoganson, who's been an unbelievable publicist.
He's great.
And he found a radio promoter that would take a chance on us. Most of them, the first 5 or 6 that he went to, said, hate the name, won't do it, won't take a chance.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because those are my favorite kind of stories that, only God will get the credit, at the end of the day. So it's really been through Ian and his connections and his support of our dream that has helped us kind of take it to the next level. And I think God, I do think that was a divine connection too.
Yeah, no doubt. And it sounds like Ian has become a champion for you and for the new ministry that's being birthed here.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny. Fair Trade Services, Centricity, everybody's received emails, demos, copies of whose, I sent stuff to radio promoters last year and, got crickets and it's fine. Centricity was nice enough to an email back, and I don't know who, an intern or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just the kindness of having somebody reply and say, you're not what we're looking for, but hey, we love your sound, keep doing it. Honestly, that rejection was so, it just felt really good not to be invisible, and nobody else ever replied until Ian called one day, one afternoon, as the whole family, we were all getting ready to walk into a restaurant, and the phone rang and it said, Tennessee. And I just went, oh my God. And it just grew from that moment.
Right. That's cool. I know a lot of people really are outside the bubble of Nashville and what happens in the music business, and how it's kind of mysterious to a lot of people. And, but I love the fact that Ian would take a chance on you and then help guide you, through the process. And, so many people, John Mays is the founder and our director at Centricity. He's been one of my best friends for 35 years. And when we have our NCS weekend intensives, which we have one coming up, it'll probably be past by the time this podcast is out, but we're doing like 3 a year, and he invites us into Centricity and we have a barbecue dinner, and he talks about these things and how difficult it is for independent artists, but also the fact that with technology and the whole thing that's going on now, that independent artists have such an advantage. And, it does take funding. It does take, really building a foundation for yourself. But, here you are doing it. So we're going to be watching for a lot of great things to come. So I know you've got a Facebook page for Inspiration Worship, because I was creeping on it earlier before the show. And is there a website as well?
Yep, it's www.inspirationworship.com.
I can't believe you got that name.
I know. Well, what's really funny is the first time we went to get it, it wasn't available. And it was Between Who's and Recording Powerful. And we were like, oh, this is such an investment, not only of our time, but of our finances. Should we do it? And my husband went on and it was available. And we're like, okay, we're going. And it was so encouraging. It just felt like, I don't know, God opened it up for us in that moment.
Yeah. I felt like that when I found the URL for NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com.
Right?
It's like, are you kidding me, God? It's like, really? That's available for $13 on GoDaddy? It's like, wow.
Seriously.
That was the minute that I knew I was supposed to start this company. And, 2.5 years later, we have this amazing podcast with beautiful guests such as yourself, and so many things that we're offering. But it's a delight to have you on, and we're going to just be watching for great things to come. Is there anything you'd say to our audience, people that are, that they're not even as far along as you, they've not done a record yet. They might not ever do a record. They might not ever have a chance. Some of them will, and just because it depends on their desire to pursue it, right? You had this impetus from God, this healing. You knew, the Lord has been kind of had his hand in your back pushing you along. But what would you say to someone out there who would be like, well, I have a testimony too. Might not be as dramatic as a terminal illness, but what would you say to them just as far as to encourage them in their journey?
Ian said something early on, and he said, content is king. And I would encourage people to continue writing, continue getting feedback, and just if the desire is truly there, keep moving forward. And we just actually last week we wrote 6 new songs. I just want to keep moving forward. And I think they may very well be the 6 best songs I've written to date. I just firmly believe that content is king. If you have it in you, keep putting it out there and trust that God will make that divine connection with it. But I do believe that you have to do what you're able to do in your realm. I am able to write. I'm able to record. I don't necessarily have the connections on my own, but I was trusting God for those. And so I would say never stop doing the stuff that you're able to do. Keep doing it, keep putting it out there. And like you said before about social media, the ability to put your content out there is there. You don't need anything fancy to get it out there. And I just trust, but nobody will discover it if it's not there, if you don't create it. So continue to create. That would be my best advice.
I love it. Linda Doane, Inspiration Worship. You are an inspiration, and we're thankful for your every breath and just for the testimony of God's grace in your life. Thanks for being on the show today.
And thanks for what you're doing too. It's very encouraging to those of us out there with this dream.
Well, thanks. And we're going to be watching for great things to come. We'll be checking in on your Facebook and your social media, and we'll put this in the show notes too. If anybody listening would like to check in on Inspiration Worship, we'll have the URLs there. And
I appreciate it.
Linda, we wish you and Tom the best.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hey, what a fantastic show today. I hope you caught all the value bombs that were dropped on this one and that you'll begin to immediately incorporate them into your songwriting. You know, you can get even more valuable songwriting tools and inspiration when you join NCS membership. You can become a part of a growing community of songwriters from around the world and tap into some of the most powerful resources available to step you up in your songwriting destiny. Check out NCS membership now at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com and get ready for some exponential power to help you fulfill your call to write. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.